This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places. Between payroll, your tax consultant, and the IRS. If your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome to the Oregonian Sports Podcast. I am Bill Oram, joined, as always, by Brenna Greene of Coin6. Brenna, it occurs to me on this fine Thursday morning that podcasting is a form of time travel.
Oh, boy.
Because we are speaking to people from the future.
Okay.
And those people know whether the Oregon women win or lose against Indiana. You and I, on this Thursday morning, do not know. The game just tipped off in Indianapolis. We don't know.
That's a great point, and had not quite registered with me. But you are correct. They are playing right now.
So we will monitor the score of that game that just tipped off in the Eastern time zone. But we have a lot to get to today. Baseball? I think we're going to be talking about baseball. More as a concept than a sport. More as a economic driver than a sport. At least for now. But there's stuff happening there. The Blazers continue to chip away. Although the mighty Peyton Pritchard got in their way last night. And spring football is upon us, at least in one of our local municipalities. So there's just kind of a lot happening. Spring, Brenna, has sprung. One quick story from my life that I would like to regale you with. Last night, my wife decided to wash some of our pillows. So in the washer and then the dryer. And she sent me downstairs to get the pillows from the dryer. And I opened up the dryer, and it looked like a goose had been murdered.
Yep.
Absolutely slaughtered. One of these pillows split open. So as I was getting the pillows out and trying to get this mess cleaned up, I caught a look at myself in the mirror, and I looked like Harry from Home Alone.
Oh, yes. Great reference.
Marv. I look like Marv. Wait, Marv.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've watched those.
Harry and Marv. Maybe both Harry and Marv. Harry was Joe Pesci, right? I look like Joe Pesci with the feathers.
Okay. Yeah.
Not a sports story. Just something that I've been thinking about this morning.
Thank you for sharing with the group.
Also, I'm in the market for new pillows if anybody has a hookup. Okay. So obviously, moving past betting, we do need to talk about this baseball thing, which has been dominating my week. And we've talked about this before as a concept. I know how you generally feel about the Portland Diamond Project and the level of confidence you have in the Portland Diamond Project. And I think that this is going to be a good conversation because I think you are the perfect...
I'm perfect foil for you, probably.
Well, you have the perfect sort of reluctance to jump on board. The reasons that you have been resistant, I think, are the perfect things to talk about right now. So let me get listeners up to speed. The Portland Diamond Project made an appearance at the Oregon legislature on Monday. Craig Cheek appeared in front of an economic subcommittee alongside Portland Mayor Keith Wilson and the CEO of the Portland Metro Chamber, Andrew Hone, to sort of lay the groundwork for revisiting Senate Bill 5 from 2003, which was approved way back when Portland was trying to make a case to get the Expos. SB 5 carved out $150 million in income tax dollars from baseball players and team employees who made over $50,000 to repay stadium bonds. So it was essentially a public-private partnership, but not really a public funded stadium.
Yeah.
Public financing, not public funding. So two things happened on Monday in this hearing. The biggest one, at least on day one, was that Craig Cheek revealed some renderings.
Yeah.
And for the first time since the Diamond Project turned its attention fully to Zidell Yards on the South Waterfront, signed a purchase sale agreement, and really kind of established this is the site for this effort.
Mm-hmm.
We saw some pictures, and they were very pretty. Do you agree they were pretty?
They were pretty. Oh, yeah.
You're such a stick in the mud on this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, certainly get some some feelings going about like, if this could be a reality, how pretty is that? How cool could that be? The other thing that happened, and maybe even the biggest thing, is what did not happen. Craig Cheek did not make an ask of the committee of the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
It was simply him laying the groundwork, wanting to modernize SB 5, modernize, more money, right? Obviously. So what does that look like 22 years down the road? Well, did some digging, and the answer is it looks like $800 to $900 million, which is a huge number. It's almost $1 billion, Brenna.
Yep.
I have all sorts of thoughts on this, most of which I've written already. Like, my opinion's out there in the world. I've written 2 columns about this week.
Yep.
Probably going to have more. I've spoken to Craig Cheek. I think what the people want to hear, though, is your...
They want my opinion.
Without my influence, before I tell you my feelings about this or my view of this, beyond what you've read in the Oregonian as a loyal subscriber,
obviously,
give me your reaction to this week's news as it relates to the future of baseball in Portland.
Okay. Like that's literally my reaction. I mean, I want to make something clear. Like, obviously I would love it if an MLB team came here. That would be excellent. Like, I'm not someone that's like, oh, I don't want this team to come. Like, or this, how do I say this? This proverbial team to come. It's not that. It's just that obviously I was talking with somebody at work last night who has not a sports department employee, has no skin in this game situation. And they were like, oh, that thing? And like, somebody who's lived here for like 5 years. So it's not like it's a lifelong Portland resident, anything like that. He's like, oh, that thing? Really? That's still happening? People are still talking about that? So, I do think that there's a significant amount of people who are skeptical, and perhaps even more skeptical than I. So yeah, I mean, I see it. The number doesn't shock me at all. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. The pictures were pretty, as you said, but they're renderings. They're fake. So let me know when there's something tangible here. That's kind of how I feel. Like, I understand they're trying to get serious about this. I read your story about it. I understand that. But so far, there's just not a lot of, there wasn't anything that I felt was of a ton of substance that was like tangible, where it was like, okay, like, Rob Manfred, and like, I know you can't disclose conversations with Rob Manfred. I understand that. But there's just got to be something more tangible here. I read your story, and you kept asking Craig about, okay, who is the owner? Who is this owner? And to be honest, he gave you a whole lot of fluff.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's a logical question.
Mm-hmm.
That will be revealed at the appropriate time. All right, well, that's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to get excited about an ask to the legislature, which, as you pointed out, wasn't, I mean, it was an ask, but, you know,
that's still coming.
Yeah, it is. It's coming. I agree with you. It will come at some point. An ask to the legislature and renderings. You know? So, yeah, that's how I feel.
So I appreciate your response to this, because I think that you really are tapping into something that I think a lot of Portlanders feel, and a lot of people around the sports community feel, which is that there has been a real fatigue with the Portland Diamond Project.
Correct.
And over 8 years of doing this, we have seen how many different sites come and go, how many different proposals come and go. This is not the first time that there have been renderings. I think by my count, it's at least the third, if not the fourth. So there is, I understand why people would say, like, you know, you've lost the script a little bit. But what I would encourage people to do is to consider what is different now in this moment than at any other point. They have an actual sale agreement on this property that is locked in. It is a site that makes way more sense than any other they've had in terms of, you know, access to light rail, opportunity, the fact that it is functionally downtown. It is an untapped part of Portland's waterfront from at least a visitor standpoint. The site, I think, is great. Okay. But like, more so, what did you see at that hearing on Monday? You saw the mayor of Portland. You saw the president of the Portland Chamber. What has been one of the biggest issues with this entire endeavor for 8 years? It's been that everyone's been pulling sort of in a different direction. You know, Craig Cheek and Mike Barrett were running around Portland trying to find a site anywhere they could. Ted Wheeler didn't care about baseball. You know, Portland went through the pandemic and, you know, is slower to recover than many places are. You know, a lot happened in 2020, obviously. And here we are in 2025. There's actually real political alignment. There's alignment between the political side, the team side, and the business community. And that's what these leagues want to look for when they're considering where they go. Like, is there a plan that everybody is rowing in the same direction on? Yeah. And I think for the first time in the Portland Diamond Project's existence, that exists. So I do view this as their window and their shot, but like, I completely agree with you. People have tuned them out. Like, they've largely tuned out the concept of the Portland Diamond Project because they've stopped taking it seriously. But what I would encourage people to consider is that there are serious people who are now taking it seriously. People I talked to a year ago who were like, they're not serious. This is not real. The red tail thing is a land grab. It is not. These are people like, you know, within the orbit of this project, people who are, you know, within government spaces, who did not take it seriously, who this week I reached out to, who said, yes, I'm 100% in on it now. I believe in it now. It's not that they believe so much more in Craig Cheek now, but it's that he has brought to the table a version of this project that people in the city can get on board with. He has surrounded himself with more serious people. I mean, I don't want to say it wasn't serious before, but the Diamond Project has grown up. It has gotten more serious advisors. It has kind of gotten more reasonable about what it's trying to do. It understood that if you want Portland to work with you, you've got to find a project that's going to align with the values of the city. And so here we have a project and a location that, you know, is on light rail, you know, would be great for foot traffic, would help revitalize downtown, you know, all these things. I mean, 32,000 seat ballpark would, in 81 home games, would bring 2.5 million people to downtown Portland over the course between April and September. And that's to say nothing of what you would get out of it from October through April with a multi-use venue. Now, there are a lot of steps here, and I'm not trying to say Portland is now going to get a Major League Baseball team.
Yeah.
That is up to forces greater than my, pen and paper and ability to write a column.
Yeah.
But what I do think that we should all be rooting for, and we should all hope to see, is Portland and the state of Oregon making the best case it can. Because it would show a level of political will and like support for sports that frankly, like we have long as a market been ridiculed for not having.
Yeah.
And so if you see the business community and you see the political community and you see the team side, growing up a little bit, and if the legislature gets on board, like I would be impressed and heartened by like Oregon's ability to come together and go for it. And then I don't care. Then I don't care if the team goes to Nashville or Salt Lake. I just want to see I don't want to see some like half-ass effort where like one guy, Craig Cheek, gets a former Major League Baseball player to say, hey, a team in Portland, wouldn't that be great? Like, I want to see a real effort. And I think that's what people have been asking for over these 8 years. And I think that's why people feel like the Diamond Project has lost the script, because they felt like it wasn't a very organized or very serious effort. And I think what's happening now is much more so. So I want to see what it looks like when this effort takes a real swing. Now, there are many hurdles. We don't know how Major League Baseball looks at Portland right now. Rob Manfred did not pick up the phone when I called yesterday, waiting for that call back. Major League Baseball. There's going to be infrastructure issues. Parking is going to be an issue. How do you resolve that? How does OHSU feel about having a ballpark basically at its doorstep?
Yeah.
There's going to be things that have to be sorted out, and those are real issues, and I'm not diminishing any of those. But I think there's an opportunity for Oregon to show that it's serious about baseball. And I don't care if we get a team, like I do, but like I care more about, from a statewide perspective, us like being serious about trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Just reading up yesterday about what Manfred has said recently about what he wants expansion to look like. First of all, I don't think we're going to hear anything from him solid about this for at least another year. Mm-hmm. Because they are so focused right now on the fact that, Oakland is playing in a AAA baseball stadium right now. I'm correct on that.
Tampa Bay is playing in a spring training.
Yes.
Spring training stadium.
It's not great. Okay. Yeah. Like they have issues with their own. And I haven't paid attention to the Oakland situation in a while, but when I was in Vegas, every single person I spoke to that was from Vegas is like, yeah, that team isn't actually coming here. It was amazing. And I haven't followed it that closely either. But like the fact that the mayor of Las Vegas said, stay in Oakland, stay where you're wanted, is remarkable. And by the way, now granted, when you have an owner that wants, that is just going to move the team and build it himself and blah, 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 that is a different scenario. But talk about alignment, a lack of alignment in Las Vegas. That is unbelievable and unreal. So, they're much more focused on their current teams right now than they are about adding two teams. But the one thing that was said was that, we very clearly know we need to add a team in the Eastern time zone, and we need to add a team in the Mountain or Pacific time zone. So in my mind, I'm like, well, it seems pretty obvious to me that Montreal is going to get a team. I just feel like that's going to happen. I feel like that's been talked about for so long. So I feel like kind of Montreal's got it in terms of the team in the Eastern time zone. And now it becomes looking around at other cities in the, on the West Coast. And it does feel like right now, and you also made mention of this in your article, Salt Lake is much more organized. Mm-hmm. Straight up, way more organized than us. Mm-hmm. So, if the Portland Diamond Project wants to get people on board and wants to get people serious, the time is ticking, because you've got about a year or two where, MLB is not going to be as focused on expansion. and you can get your ducks in a row.
You have time to catch up.
But
window.
It's a very small window in terms of bureaucracy and everything else. So if they're going to do it, they got to do it now. And if
That's
we're
why
sitting
this legislative session is important.
Yep.
And I do think that this modernization, as they're calling it, of SB 5 is probably the linchpin to the whole thing.
No, I agree with you.
And I know everybody wants billionaires to pay for their own stuff, right? Like I've heard that so many times in the last
it's not a reality.
18 hours. It's not really a reality. And also this is, I guess I just cannot stress this enough. It is not public funds. It is not a tax on you. It is not a tax on me. It is future tax revenue that will only be coming into the state if a Major League Baseball team is awarded. So it's not money that is costing unless a team comes, and it is going toward infrastructure in a really vital part of the city. And by the way, I'll break this news here. I don't mind breaking this news here. I don't know what I'm going to, but I did reach out to OHSU yesterday, and I asked if they had a perspective on the ballpark, right? Yeah. And here's the statement from OHSU that came in while we're sitting here. OHSU is eager to see the South Waterfront transportation network completed in order to ensure our patients can access their appointments. We are hopeful that the baseball stadium project could be the impetus for completing this much needed infrastructure, and that adverse neighborhood impacts such as traffic, noise, and safety are mitigated. Like, I think that's a positive response from OHSU.
I think that's a positive response.
They wanted, they see the potential for a partnership here, and they recognize that there's some potential pitfalls, and that they are, hoping to, work together to mitigate them. I think that's a positive. If I'm the Diamond Project and I'm moving on to OHSU's turf, I think that's an extremely positive starting point with OHSU.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's great.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But there's a lot of catching up to do in a short amount of time. They've been given this short amount of time. Shout out to hurricanes and crazy owners. Because without it, I think that would be more of a focus for MLB right now.
The thing that you did say, sorry to wag my finger like a scold, but like you did say the thing. I know, right? It's the complete package this morning.
Yeah.
The thing you said about ownership and the anonymous ownership cannot continue. Like, nobody.
It's a mess.
It's ridiculous that it's gone on this long. It is my strongest criticism. If you want to be taken seriously, tell us who's paying for it. And so I agree with you that what Craig gave me on the record, well, on the record, off the record, I'm not sitting on anything, guys, but like what Craig said is not good enough. It was fluff. It was a whole bunch of nothing. And without an actual billionaire presented to us, we have no choice but to at least consider the possibility that there isn't a billionaire. That said, like, I see no scenario where the Oregon legislature is going to approve an amendment to SB 5 and earmark nearly $1 billion in future tax revenue, ball players or not, without knowing who's going to be paying for the other half of this stadium.
Yeah, I mean, and I obviously I've heard the argument that, maybe it's somebody who's a minority owner in another team. I get that. It is time for you, sir, or ma'am, or whoever you are, to go all in.
Yeah.
You want to get public
disclose and divest.
Yep. You want to get public support? That's the only way to do it, I think, right now.
Yeah.
I really do, because I think that a lot of people are very, very skeptical of the situation. I mean, I said it before when we talked about baseball earlier. They are, quite honestly, the boy who cried wolf to a lot of people. It's just, baseball again. Okay, all right. Who's on board this time? Russell Wilson's out. All right, who's the next big athlete we're going to do a press conference with, talking about how baseball needs to be in Portland? Like, okay, cool. What does that do? I don't know. I
just want to be really clear, though. I really think they've outgrown that. Like, I think that they have outgrown that stage of their sort of like.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I understand why people are skeptical, because it's new. I think that they have just sort of stepped into a new, more mature stage of this project. But there's a lot more to see. I agree with you.
That's what the public perception is of it right now.
I agree.
Is Russell Wilson in a press conference going, hey, baseball would be great here.
I agree.
You know, and that's the reality. That's the position that they have put themselves in. So, you know, I just, the only way I think to really change the public perception of them is to finally put the leader in front of people and put all your cards in, put all your chips in, show that you're serious about this. Because if you, the person who's supposed to own this team, doesn't show that you're serious about this, how can you expect Portlanders to take this seriously at the end of the day?
I think that is an extremely fair line to draw in the sand.
Yep.
I will get on board with, I will take you seriously when, I will leave you when you show me that you have somebody who can do all this. Now, that said,
I'll take you seriously when when you show me you're serious.
Yeah, I think that's a fair place to be, and I think that, you know, I think that they know that, and I also think that, like, they know the clock is ticking, and I think it is coming. I do not think that they can go through the process with elected officials without disclosing who this is publicly. Yeah. And if that's going to be the case, they shouldn't do it in a hearing at the Oregon State Capitol. They should do it at a huge press conference at Zidell Yards where, you know, who's a billionaire? LeBron James jumps out of a helicopter, you know, for the press conference. Like, I just think that you're right. I think that, you know, that would be the way to sway public sentiment. You know, what they are doing more or less behind the scenes before, you know, I reported it this week, I think is credible work that they are doing that is credible and necessary, but probably isn't going to sway public opinion. The thing that could sway public opinion is putting a face and a name to the money and getting people excited about that person being all in on this project. I agree.
We honestly, you and I could talk about this for another half an hour, but I'm gonna put a pin on it. I think that was a good place to end it. So,
Brenna, if the season ended today, if the NBA season ended today, the Portland Trailblazers would have a 3% chance of winning the lottery and drafting Cooper Flagg. The Blazers are 28-35 after losing to the Boston Celtics, defending champion Boston Celtics. No shame in that. Last night in Boston, the Blazers are 5-5 over the last 10. They've been good on this road trip. They've also played a lot of poor teams. They've also played teams that are good. Have you noticed how many times over this stretch that teams that they are playing, good teams, rest their best player against the Blazers?
I have not noticed that. But
Jason Tatum did not play.
Fascinating.
Donovan Mitchell did not play. It has just been a bit of a recurring theme, in addition to the fact that they're beating Utah, Brooklyn, Charlotte. Like, I'm not saying that the Blazers have not been better. They've obviously been good. They've been good. They outplay their opponents every single night. They outwork their opponents. They play defense. Toumani Camara and Denny Avdia are the, you know, engines of this team. Mm-hmm. No question. Defense is the calling card of this team. No question. Chauncey Billups. A lot of questions.
I'm fascinated to see how that all ends up. Fascinated.
I just don't know what to say about the Trailblazers because they have been good. They've been really good, and they are, you know, they have been one of the best teams in the league since January. Their net rating has been off the charts. You know, Toumani Camara was just the defensive player of the month. There's so much to like about this team right now. And also, I still don't know where they are in the big picture or in their overall direction. And maybe I should just take a step back the direction will be what the direction is,
Will
but
unveil itself.
But I stand by, in the NBA in 2025, you are going to need a star to be a contender of any any level of seriousness. You're going to need a star. Do they have a star? I don't think so. I think they have awesome role players.
Yeah.
I think they have at least 3 or 4 awesome role players in their young core. But they're going to need a star. How do they get a star? And it seems like they need a star right now, because Denny's good. Tumani's good. Klingon is gonna be better next year. Like you've seen it. You've seen the signs this year. He'll be better next year. It just feels weird to say that the Blazers probably need to be, going for it in a sense this summer. Not championship pieces, but you need to be adding. Like, you need to be buyers now. You need to be adding to the core you have, not just sort of, waiting for the spring. Like, that I think that what this stretch has proven is that they are ready to take a step forward. Like, next year they should be a playoff team. Are you there?
Yeah, no, I can't believe I'm saying I agree with you. If you would have asked me this at the beginning of the season, I would have said, what?
No, they had 3 years more of tanking in their future. They were going to stink this year. They're going to draft Cooper Flagg. They were going to stink next year while he got a little bit better. They're going to add another draft pick, and maybe in 2027 you start thinking play-in playoff. But so, okay, so they're a year ahead of schedule in my mind, but without the Cooper Flagg figure player, that number one player.
Yeah, it's a real conundrum they're in right now.
But it's been good. It's good. It's a conundrum, but it's good. Like, it's
thank God it's a good look. We all have wanted a good conundrum with the Blazers forever, because we are all sick and tired of talking about a losing team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing that has been made clear from the last few weeks, months, whatever you want to call it, for the Blazers, is that changes are a-coming, and they better be coming fast in terms of the question marks on that roster. Because now you don't have time to kind of sit around and wait and see how things play out. You have got to be proactive this summer with Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons and everyone else involved in that. So it is
paramount.
They have kind of unintentionally reached an inflection point.
Yeah, I would agree.
And also, like I said, what's going to happen with Chauncey?
Mm-hmm.
Do all of a sudden, does Chauncey get the 1-year extension? I sincerely don't know what they're going to do in terms of that, because I think that it's one of those situations where it's going to be, we've got to wait and see what happens. In the next, it literally is dependent on the next month.
Yeah.
And I did not think I'd be saying that at this point in the season either. And at this point in the season, I think we all thought, I think I've said it before. I've said that, Chauncey's, it's not happening. And all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe.
In my opinion, Chauncey Billups should stay the Blazers coach. Like, I don't know on what grounds you would say that it's time to move on.
Yeah, this is the first year. Turned a corner.
He has turned a corner. He's got a team that has bought in. They're playing the style that he has talked about for 4 years. It's just so rare that you see a coach fail for 3.5 years and then figure it out. And this is all not on Chauncey. A lot of it's on the roster. A lot of it's on the personnel. There have been a lot of moving pieces. The goals have shifted. But if Chauncey was under contract, like had multiple years left on his contract, this just wouldn't be a question. But it's interesting because of where he is in his contract with a team option going into this summer. And I stand by, I do not think that the Blazers can simply pick up his option and that's it. And then he's a lame duck next year. I don't think that's an option. I don't think if I'm Chauncey's agent, and he has a very good agent, he has the best agent, I am saying you either give us more years on this contract, because we've shown that he does not deserve to be a lame duck coach based on what he has done with this team.
Mm-hmm.
This team is playing hard. This team is playing well. It's beating teams it shouldn't beat. It's blown your tanking plans, to smithereens because he's that good of a coach. So he does not deserve to be a lame duck coach here. So you either give him additional years, or we would kindly request that you do not pick up his option so we can go get it. We can go somewhere else. And that is where the game of the game kind of swings, and I'm just interested to see how it ends up shaking out in that dynamic, because Chauncey Billups deserves security. He has earned security through his performance, and that I don't know if the Blazers really want to be giving him that security. I do think that the Blazers sort of anticipated making a coaching change this summer before things turned around. Mm-hmm. So the idea now of re-upping for several more years, is that a commitment they want to make? I don't know. I think it's a really interesting question. I think Chauncey has done enough, though, and deserves to be back.
I guess the thing I struggle with is, yes, it's been a great stretch for them in 2025. But does that, what? I mean, let's be real here. A 2-month stretch take precedent over the years prior. And we've talked about it on this podcast. He joined this team to do something different. And I get that. And I understand it. And all kind of blew up in his face. And he was like, what is going on here? So I get that. But, it strikes me a little like the Raiders situation, where you have an interim coach come in. He has all this success over this short amount of time. Everybody rallies behind him. Everybody says, this is the guy. And then the next year it falls flat on its face.
Totally. It happens.
And that is my biggest concern, is that, Sacramento, another situation where everybody kind of rallied around the guy. And then all of a sudden it was like, whoa. Now, obviously Sacramento has its own issues, and that's well documented in terms of coaches
pretty
and ownership.
Volatile ownership there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, this is I'm not saying that both situations are like the same. They are not. But yeah, I think that's the thing I struggle with in terms of giving him more than the option is
okay. So here's what I think.
I totally understand.
I don't think he can be a lame duck. I don't think he can be a lame duck with no security beyond next year. Yeah. What you could do, and I don't know if Chauncey's side would agree to this, but where you sort of meet in the middle on this, is you guarantee next year. You pick up the option and guarantee next year, but you add an option year on the back end. So it's like you essentially do the same thing you did this year over. I don't love that. If I'm him, I would want, give me 2+1. And 2+1 is pretty palatable, because at that point, you're really just let's say next year goes completely off the rails and you're firing him. You're really just paying him out
for 1 year,
for one more year, which I don't know, seems somewhat palatable to me. And it's just funny, because you're talking about rewarding Chauncey for something that has actually forced you to pivot from what your strategy was. Yeah. He's made this team good enough that you're not actually on the track you thought you were going to be on. It's and you say it's a good problem to have. It is sort of, but you don't, you still don't have a clear picture of who you're going to be when you are a good team. That I think is the problem. But now you've got guys who are ready to go and no time to waste. and your highest paid players taking up all your cap space are still guys you don't want here. Like, it's just, you're just a little bit knotted up. Brenna, congratulations are in order to maybe the greatest athlete in Portland sports today. I speak, of course, of Sophia Wilson Nee-Smith, who announced her pregnancy on Instagram yesterday. She married Arizona Cardinals receiver Michael Wilson in the offseason. This, of course, means that Sophia will not be playing for the Thorns in the 2025 season. The Thorns are already a bit of a mess on their roster due to injuries. What do you make of the Thorns going into this season now that you know that you, Brenna Greene, will be starting in the midfield?
Keep your expectations low.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's not just, like, obviously it's a topic that I want to be sensitive about in terms of Sophia, because that's super exciting and super great. When you add it with the totality of the other three, gosh, if you are watching right now on this, on YouTube, or if you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out, as my cat just threw his old collar into the air behind me. So
Brenna's cat's doing circus tricks on the live stream.
He's new collar goofing today, and apparently that means throwing the old one up into the air. So it's the totality of the situation. With Sophia out, you have why am I blanking on her full name? Because I covered her in college. Morgan Weaver, who everyone thought was back and healed and mended. Not the case, ladies and gentlemen. Out again. She made a return last year, and apparently she shouldn't have done that. And then you have Marie Mueller out and Nicole Payne. So two players who played for their national teams. Well, actually, Marie did not. But Marie got the call up for her national team very recently, and Nicole played for her national team in the Olympics. So that is a pretty big deal. And the fact that you are missing those four players now, it's interesting. The NWSL does not have a draft anymore. It's all free agency out of college. So there's really not a lot of advantages in terms of having a bad team.
Well, and especially because this is the first year that under new ownership that they've had like a runway to build out, they've built out support staff. They have new executives in place with the Thorns. They've got the practice facility groundbreaking. That was a huge announcement that they were going to be able to have, that they were going to build the practice facility, the joint practice facility with the WNBA. There's business side momentum with the Thorns coming out of the sale, and on field, what's the opposite of momentum? Dismomentum.
There may be something left to be desired this year.
Yeah, but so it is going to. I just think it's going to be interesting to watch how those things kind of commingle.
And I feel for Rob Gale, because honestly, it kind of feels like the Thorns have become the new Blazers. They had so many injuries last year they were trying to work through. They scratch and claw and bite their way into the playoffs. And now it's like, oh, we're back here again. Season hasn't even started, and we have
Is
four players
Sophia
out.
going to request a trade to Milwaukee? Is that the next domino to fall? Request a trade to Miami and get traded to Milwaukee instead, I guess, is probably more apropos.
More, yeah. So yeah, an interesting season to unfold, and I hope that this season does not impact Rob Gale's employment, because I don't really think that is deserved, unless they just don't win any games.
Yeah.
By the way, I'll just say it. Rob Gale, the dopest head coach, I think, in our area.
Cool.
He's just the best dude, So I guess that's me saying I want him to succeed, because I find him to be out of a lot of the head coaches that we deal with the most. He's an interesting bite, but he's also it seems as though to me, a good human being. So I feel for him in the situation that he has been put in yet again. So hopefully it all works out, but this Thorns season is going to be interesting, and not in the way I think that fans would like it to be. Let's put it that way.
I do want to say, Brenna, that I had a great sports experience over the weekend. I took my family to the Portland State Montana game. Secret, I'm a Montana alumnus. I did not really rep the colors. I wore a Missoula Club cap, and I don't know. I know you have, Brenna. I don't know how many of our listeners have been to games at Viking Pavilion on campus at Portland State, or if people remember the old Stock
I've never
Center.
been to a game there.
You haven't?
No.
It is the best. It is the best basketball venue in the city by far. The court is below street level. Mm-hmm. Natural light comes in through the windows. It has that modern concourse where you can walk around the arena and still see the game. Mm-hmm. I would like every basketball game to be played at Viking Pavilion, including the Blazers. I had such a good time. It was such a good product. It was a terrific game. Portland State won in overtime. And by the way, the Vikings locked up the 3 seed
I saw that
in the Big Sky tournament, which is going to be huge. Starch Madness, baby. You know about Starch Madness? Ever since they moved the Big Sky tournament to Boise, it's Starch Madness.
Starch Madness. I was still living in Reno when they had it in Reno.
Yeah, I remember when it was in Reno.
That was a time. That was a time to be had.
And so I do want to shout out the Portland State men for closing the season undefeated at home in conference play, which is an achievement. They beat Montana State, Montana, and Sacramento State down the stretch to lock up the 3 seed. Montana was the number one team is the number one team in the conference. Had won 10 straight going into Portland State, so that's a huge win for the Vikings. Jace Coburn, you want to talk about dope head coaches?
Yeah,
that dude is. I described him in print as a walking zen because he is all energy. He is, like, as we know, he's a mixed martial arts, black belt, got the whole thing. And you see it on the sideline. He is constantly moving, doing power squats on the sideline, crushing energy drinks. Literally, I don't know how many coaches I've seen crushing cans of energy drinks on the sideline. He alone is worth the price of admission if it wasn't also the best basketball venue. It was such a good experience. My family and I went with a friend of mine from college was the starting power forward on the Montana Grizzlies team that won a first round game in the NCAA tournament in 2006. You mentioned Reno. They beat Nevada with Nick Fazekas as a 12 seed.
Now we're really just in my bag right now.
So it was really fun to hang out with Andrew Strait of the 2006 Montana Grizzlies. Great basketball game, great basketball venue. And I'm excited. I'm obviously excited for the Big Sky tournament coming up as a Montana grad, but I also am intrigued to see what the Vikes do. That's a good team. And, we know obviously that the Oregon men are going to the NCAA tournament. The Oregon women, are in range. They are currently, by the way, I had this up. They were trailing 40-30 at halftime, by the way, to the people in the future who know the result. And the UP women, have won the last 2 WCC tournaments. They're what number 1 seed, is that right? So they're
the number 2 seed.
They're the 2 seed, but they,
co-champions. Yeah.
Co-champions. There we go. And they they've got a great shot. But the team that people are not talking about as an NCAA tournament, local entry, perhaps.
No, I agree with you. I didn't realize they were that good. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I knew now going into this podcast, but I didn't realize that they'd had
been sleeping on
decent of a season.
Been sleeping on them. And I mean, Jace Coburn has done a great job there. Like done a really, really nice job with that program. So credit to them. Okay. We're going to get out of here. And we'll be back next week. I don't know. I'm trying it out. I don't know nicknames.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Hey, but before we get out of here, I just got to say, yeah, we did not say this, but I got to give a shout out to Austin Rapp on the UP men's basketball team. Big Sky, WCC Freshman of the Year.
Yeah.
If he somehow stays at UP, we got something cooking. All right. If you haven't seen him play, he's really fun. 6'10" Aussie kid who looks like he should be a football player and is leading the WCC in 3-point shooting percentage and also leads the conference in the most made threes. So this is not like some sort of flash in the pan thing where he's taken like 15 threes this year. He's a forward that can shoot the lights out. So it would be very, very good for our city if he stays around. That is a building block that, if UP can keep him, is absolutely huge for the future of Shantae and that program. Speaking of coaches who are energetic on the sideline, it is, you know what is fun is when Portland State and Portland play each other in men's basketball, because those two teams do not like each other.
How about that? You know who does like each other? You and me. We get along great. We do this once a week. Thank you to those people who listen. Stick with us for nearly an hour of sports talk. We try to do it every week. We'll be back next week. Tell your friends. Tell them to come hang out with us. There's the kitty cat. Yeah, tell your friends to come hang out with Bill and Brenna, and with a special guest appearance, probably 2 to 3 times per episode from Sequoia. So, and there's always a pet involved in this podcast, it turns out. Because last week was my puppy. Okay. Brenna, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We will talk soon.